There is a dark liquid, costs about $3 per use. You wipe it onto sun-faded gray chalky plastic trim. 20 minutes later, that trim looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. Not greasy, not shiny like a cheap tire dressing. It looks factory, and it stays that way for 2 years, maybe longer. No weekly reapplication, no Armor All residue that washes off in the first rain, no spending $40 a month on spray bottles that promise miracles and deliver disappointment. The car detailing industry in this country generates over $12 billion a year. A huge slice of that is trim restoration products, gels, sprays, wipes, creams, an entire aisle at the auto parts store dedicated to fixing one problem: faded plastic. And almost every single product on that aisle is designed to fail, designed to wash off, designed to bring you back in 6 weeks for another bottle. Now imagine a substance that doesn't sit on top of the plastic like greasy makeup. Imagine something that actually penetrates, bonds at the molecular level, and becomes part of the trim itself. Imagine paying $15 once and watching your car's plastic outlast the neighbor's who spends every Saturday morning with a sponge and a bottle of premium dressing. This is not a gimmick. This is polymer chemistry that has existed for decades, and the detailing industry has worked very hard to make sure you never learn the difference between a dressing and a dye. This is the story of the trim restorer they hoped you'd never find. Before we talk about the solution, let's understand the problem. Because once you understand why plastic fades, you'll immediately recognize why 90% of the products on the shelf are a waste of your money. The black plastic trim on your car, the bumper inserts, the door handles, the side mirrors, the wiper cowl, the fender flares, is made from thermoplastic elastomers or polypropylene blends. Fancy words. What matters is this: these materials contain oils and pigments that give them that deep, dark, factory black color. Now the sun hits that plastic, day after day, month after month. Ultraviolet radiation is brutal. It doesn't just warm the surface, it breaks chemical bonds. It oxidizes the top layer. It literally bleaches the pigment out and dries up the oils. The surface develops microscopic cracks. Those cracks scatter light differently. That's why faded plastic doesn't just look lighter, it looks chalky, powdery. Dead. Automotive paint has a clear coat to protect it. Plastic trim has nothing. It's naked. It's taking the full force of the sun with no sunscreen. Now, the detailing industry sells you 2 types of products to fix this. The first type is a dressing. This is your Armor All, your Trim Shine, your premium protectant sprays. These are basically oils and silicones. You wipe them on. They make the plastic look wet. That wetness temporarily fills those microscopic cracks and makes the surface reflect light evenly again. It looks black for about a week, maybe a month if it doesn't rain. Then the oil evaporates or washes off. The gray comes back. So you apply more and more and more. You are not restoring anything. You are renting the appearance of black plastic. And the rent is due every time you wash the car. The second type is a coating. These are acrylic or ceramic sealants. They sit on top of the plastic like a hard shell. They last longer than dressings, maybe 4 to 6 months, but they're still just a layer on top. They don't fix the underlying oxidation. When they wear off, the gray is still there, waiting. What you need, what the industry doesn't want you to know exists, is the third category: dye. Not a dressing, not a coating. A dye that penetrates into the plastic and bonds with it at the molecular level. Let me explain the difference because it changes everything. A dressing sits on the surface. It's like putting lotion on dry skin. It feels good for a while, then it's gone. A true trim dye does something completely different. It uses a solvent carrier to open the pores of the plastic and deliver pigment deep into the surface layer. When the solvent flashes off, the pigment stays behind, trapped inside the plastic itself. It has literally become part of the trim. Some of the higher-end products take this even further. They use a ceramic-infused formula that actually swaps molecules with the plastic. The coating doesn't just sit there. It cross-links. It chemically grafts onto the surface. That's why products like Cerakote and Getechnic C4 advertise durability of 2 years or more. They're not being hyperbolic. That's what happens when something bonds instead of coats. Here's the part that should make you angry. This chemistry is not new. It's not proprietary rocket science. Polymer dyes and cross-linking sealants have existed for decades. The patents are public. The formulations are understood. And yet, walk into any auto parts store. The shelves are dominated by dressings. $12 for a spray bottle of scented oil, $15 for a premium gel that will wash off in the next thunderstorm. Why? Because a dressing customer comes back every 6 weeks. A dye customer comes back every 2 years. The math is not complicated. A business that sells temporary solutions makes more money than a business that sells permanent ones. All right, let's get practical. You've got gray, chalky, sun-faded trim. You want it black again, and you want it to stay black. Here is the method that professional detailers use when they're not being paid to promote something else. Step 1. Clean. No, really clean. This is where 90% of people fail. They wipe a dressing over dirt, old wax residue, and oxidized plastic dust. Then they wonder why it looks streaky and wears off in 3 days. You need to strip the surface completely. Use isopropyl alcohol, the highest percentage you can find. 70% works. 90% is better. Wipe the trim down aggressively. You want to remove every trace of old dressing, road grime, and wax. If the trim feels slick or greasy, you're not done. Better yet, use a dedicated trim cleaner or a strong all-purpose degreaser. Scrub it with a stiff detailing brush. Get into the texture. Rinse, dry completely. Step 2. Mask if you care about your paint. This step is optional but strongly recommended. Real trim dyes and ceramic coatings will bond to paint just as happily as they bond to plastic, and they're a nightmare to remove once cured. Take 5 minutes with blue painter's tape and mask off the edges where trim meets painted body panels. It's tedious. It's also the difference between a professional result and a mess. Step 3. Choose the right product. Here is the cheat sheet. Forget brand loyalty. Look at the category. Dressings. Avoid anything that says shine, spray, instant, or protectant. These are temporary. They have their place for maintenance, but not for restoration. Dyes what you want. Look for words like permanent, coating, ceramic, or restoration. Products like Cerakote Trim Coat, G-Technique C4, Solution Finish, or Shine Supply Trim Dye. These are not $8 impulse buys at the checkout counter. They're $15 to $40, and they last 2 years. Do the math. $40 for 2 years is cheaper than $12 every 6 weeks. Step 4. Apply correctly. Follow the instructions on the specific product. But here are the universal rules. Work in the shade. Direct sunlight flashes off the solvents too fast and ruins the bond. Use the applicator provided or a small foam pad. Apply thin, even coats. You are not buttering toast. Less is more. For dyes like Solution Finish, you literally work it into the plastic until it stops absorbing. You'll see the gray disappearing in real time. It's deeply satisfying. For ceramic coatings like Cerakote, you apply, then level. Wipe off the excess with a clean microfiber before it cures. If you let it dry tacky and uneven, it will look terrible, and you'll have to polish it off and start over. While we're here, let's talk about the alternative methods you see on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, because some of them are actively harmful, and the fact that they're promoted as hacks should tell you everything about how badly people want to avoid buying the right product. The heat gun method. This one is popular because it looks like magic. You take a heat gun, wave it over faded plastic, and the gray turns black instantly. It feels like you've discovered a free, permanent fix. You haven't. What's actually happening? The heat melts the very top layer of oxidized plastic. It brings oils from slightly deeper in the material to the surface. It looks great. For about 3 to 6 months. Then the UV hits that newly exposed, completely unprotected surface, and it fades faster than before. Worse, you've thinned the plastic. You've made it more brittle. If you linger too long in one spot, you'll warp it or melt it. And the fumes you're inhaling? Heated plastics release things you don't want in your lungs. This method is a parlor trick. It's the automotive equivalent of putting duct tape on a leak. It looks like a fix until it fails catastrophically. Peanut butter or olive oil. I wish I were joking. This is a real hack that circulates. You rub peanut butter on your trim. The oils soak in and make it look dark for about 3 days. Then it rains, or you wash the car, and you have gray trim that smells like a sandwich, and probably ants. This is a dressing made from kitchen ingredients. It's still just a dressing. It still washes off. It's just messier and smells weird. Shoe polish. This one almost makes sense. Shoe polish is a dye, right? For leather. Plastic is not leather. The solvents in shoe polish can damage some automotive plastics. The color is usually too black or too brown. It doesn't bond properly. It rubs off on your clothes when you lean against the car. Just buy the product designed for the job. Why these hacks go viral? They go viral because they're free, or nearly free, and because they produce an instant, dramatic visual result that looks great on camera. The video ends there. It doesn't show you the trim 6 months later. It doesn't show the warped bumper from the heat gun. It shows you the 5-second transformation and collects the views. The detailers who actually know what they're doing, the ones restoring 6-figure cars for concourse events, they're not using heat guns. They're not using peanut butter. They're using ceramic trim coatings and polymer dyes because they need the result to last, and so do you. The detailing industry built a $12 billion empire on the assumption that you would never learn the difference between a dressing and a dye, that you would keep buying the $12 spray bottle every 6 weeks until you sold the car, that you would accept faded gray plastic as just what happens to old cars. They didn't ban the good stuff. They just buried it. They filled the shelves with temporary fixes. They sponsored the tutorials that taught you to reapply, reapply, reapply. They made the permanent solution look complicated, expensive, or unnecessary. But it's not. A small bottle of ceramic trim coat costs between $15 and $40. It takes an hour to apply properly, and it lasts for 2 years, maybe longer if you park in a garage. That's not a product you market aggressively. That's a product you hide on the bottom shelf. That's a product you don't mention in your top 10 trim restorers list because the company that makes it didn't pay for placement. The knowledge is yours now. The next time you see gray, chalky plastic staring back at you from your bumper or your mirrors, you'll know what to reach for. Not the spray, not the heat gun, not the peanut butter, the dye, the coating. The thing that actually fixes the problem instead of dressing it up for a week. This is the stuff they hoped you'd forget. Don't.